Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Fourcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the hybrid mana potential changes in Commander and kind of the controversy that's kind of stirred up. Today, I'm joined with my good friends Peyton and Dan, who are happy to see me and love me a lot. And yeah, how are you doing today, Peyton?
I'm good.
I hope you're doing great too, Daniel.
I'm living the dream.
The change that's been discussed is the fact that hybrid colors can be either, say it's Azorius, it can be put in mono blue decks or mono white decks. This kind of opens up a can of worms. I guess we'll start off. I kind of think it's cool for the game. How do you feel about it, Payne?
I hate it.
Okay, we have a like, a hate. How do you feel about it, Dan?
I'm hyped. I think this is going to be one of the most exciting things that happens to Commander.
Again,
just being able to kind of play more in a 60 card style of stuff where your deck doesn't have to be all just the same color. Like if you can produce the mana, you can cast the spell. I think that's really cool. I think that's going to be super sweet. And I see Peyton's got a stank face.
That's my biggest gripe, I think, with it, is that it does not align with what Commander is known for, and the fundamentals of Commander in its deck building is that color identity is a big deal. And I think if you start trying to change Commander to be more in line with the way that you build a 60 card deck, I think you lose what makes Commander Commander, because that, and I know hybrid mana cost, it's not like you can just run, because in 60 card you can run any card you want, essentially. There's no limitation. It's just, if you can't cast it, then why would you put in the deck, kind of thing. But Commander, there's a very specific set of rules about how we build the deck, and I think you start changing that and it goes against what Sheldon would have wanted.
Good thing Wizards is in charge now.
Big Daddy Wizards.
Yes, and I'm sure they have only the best intentions for our format. So we have two super fans and one not so super fan. I think it's cool, outside of the wanting to change the way we build decks like Dan likes it. I just think there's a lot of effects that some colors get from these changes that can kind of strengthen the deck a little bit. A lot of cards that are kind of hard to cast or hard to put into because they're restricted to 3-colored entities. So if you're stuck in 2-color, you can't necessarily play some of them. It kind of opens up some old cards maybe in your collection that you've had that now you have an opportunity to play with. I think there's some benefits to opening up the card pool a bit. All right, Payne, are there any cards that you would like to play if they weren't locked behind restrictive colored entities?
I mean, I will say Manamorphose is the only card that I'm why is there green on that card? The card doesn't do anything that green does. I guess maybe the mana production, because it's an older card, is that maybe that was a older green thing to produce the mana that way. But I feel like red has mana producing effects, so I think Manamorphose is the only card that I'd be okay with people running in mono red decks, because it just feels like it belongs there anyway. You don't really see it in Gruul Spellslinger, is not a thing. And it sucks that Manamorphose is tied to basically teamer decks because you need the green pip to make it work. So that's the only card I can think of off the top of my head. Again, there's probably other cards that don't necessarily follow their colors as Manamorphose does. Again, I don't think Manamorphose really follows green that well, so I'm sure there are other cards of a similar way. They're just probably not as popular and or as powerful as Manamorphose, but cards like that, I could see a world where Wizards is hey, you can throw these in mono red decks, but that's a very case-by-case basis for me.
What about one of your favorite cards, Batwing Brune? Wouldn't that be cool, playing mono black or white?
I mean, black already has access to fogs. White has it's not necessarily the same kind of fogs in white. White does a lot of Teferi's protection and phasing out kind of things. That's not a game-breaking card. The limitation on it is kind of nice, that you have to spend white and or black mana to get both effects on it. So it's kind of cool if you can have an exotic orchard to give you access to the color that you don't have to be able to get both effects. But again, it's a very case-by-case basis. I wouldn't be so upset to see a mono white deck cast Batwing Broom. That wouldn't end the game. That wouldn't be game breaking for me, but again, if we're changing this whole rule for 1 or 2 cards, then like why? Like who's it helping? Are white decks really desperate for a 2-mana fog at this point?
I will say, black only has the one fog, I think, in darkness. I'm sure we can look it up and correct me if I'm wrong. Fog is a pretty prevalent effect in white. The arts aren't playable, I would say.
Okay.
It's not of 2 mana, 3 mana. There's like that really good one, Riot Control, where you gain life for each creature on the battlefield, but it's like 3 mana.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, would you rather Teferi's protection, be protected from everything, or would you like to gain 15 life and still probably lose?
Right.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah. But I know it looks like Dan has a lot of cards on his mind that he would love to play, frothing at the mouth.
There are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 8 or 9 upgrades that I'm looking for, like Wrecking specifically. If I'm talking about cards that I'm excited about changing this hybrid rule. Outside of that, I think I know it cost, like, I think all of these effects cost a good amount of mana, but just getting the openings for mono white Reanimator, Immortal Servitude, Debtor's Knell, Pyrrhic Revival were the 3 that I found that were all hybrid. Which is just it's interesting because we just got Anti-Venom, which is like a Reanimator card. We've had like the Sun Titan effects, like get some in the back 3 or less, but just like being able to like just mass return all of your creatures from your graveyards is something that white doesn't have, and something that white really struggles with, like in board wipes and stuff like that. Like when people are like killing your creatures and you're in mono white and you're like, well, I've got 1 card in hand, I've got nothing to do, and then you're just like, oh cool, I'm gonna draw this reanimate spell, bring everything back, or start churning stuff back. Like I think that's really interesting. Those are some cool cards that I definitely will try and mess around with in some of my mono white brews.
Yeah, so I guess when we're talking about mono white, I wonder if we exclude mono white, how many of these cards we discuss like actually impact the format, I would say. Because a lot of the cards I was thinking about, like, wow, this does not belong in mono white, but mono white just kept popping up. Like Blade Historian, that's a really good card. Arguably, it is within the color pie because you have what's that card called? True Conviction, where it gives attacking creatures double strike and lifelink. So you're essentially halfway there. But I think the most egregious card is like Waves of Aggression, like giving mono white extra combat spell they can recur for discarding lands, and they already have like the sub theme of pulling all the lands into their hand, like through land tax or Archaeomancer's Map, or ramping them out. It's like, wow, I can imagine that ruining a game. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, all these changes, will they impact or benefit anyone outside of mono white, do we think?
I think that colorless gets like a lot stronger. Just from Tarkir alone, I think there are some really good the hybrid cards from Tarkir that you just don't get those kind of effects. Like Kintry Severance, Rakshasa's Bargain, Defibrillating Current. Like these are like really strong effects that colorless just it adds removal, it adds card selection, it adds really good value to a color that, or a lack of color that has like very limited answers, or it's all Eldrazi based. It's you need to control something that costs 7 or more, or this and that.
Yeah, I think also mono green. I think like low key mono green is really benefiting from this because a lot of the effects in green are so situational. Like you have access to card draw in green, but it's like usually based off casting creatures. All these hybrid mana cost cards seem to also have just like tacked on draw a card, right? Like Manamorphose is a great example. Like honestly, just playing that as like a ramp draw spell in mono green is probably really, really strong, because 2 mana draw a card in mono green I don't think exists. So I think mono green's a hidden gem of this whole thing, just from that aspect. Like Murkfiend Liege is a great example. On the flip side, like green already has untap effects on the end step with like Seaborn Muse, but giving mono blue access to it is really nice. Probably not game breaking, but just one of those things that to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think my shout out would be mono green.
It seems like mono green and mono white are the big winners. There are just like some one-off effects as well, like even in the Selesnya hybrid cards, like Privileged Position, where it's like a super green card giving your like other permanents hexproof, but not really a white card. So it just seems like white would get access to like a lot of annoying tools. And I know historically we've been complaining about white not being good, but it feels like we're long past that point, and this would kind of just like push it over the top by giving it access to things that it never should have if we want to honor the color pie, right? And the restriction is no longer that. It kind of just is. I don't want to say anything goes because, you know, Chaos Warp and Beast Within and all those things are like color shifted cards that, you know, shouldn't exist. But
yeah, I mean, I think another thing that it's really interesting is the companion side of things. Like now you can, like some of the examples that I thought of were the like the background stuff. So like the creatures with like choose a background. So like imagine running Obosh with Karlach and like Flaming Fist. Like you've now got a, you know, when it attacks, it gets double strike, it does double damage, it attacks like multiple times, or like, you know, Karlach Cultist of the Absolute where it gets +3/+3 and flying. So you're getting like really kind of new, interesting build arounds, or you can go monocolored. Like Reki in with Karuga would be honestly, I think, a really good companion for the deck. But it was something that I never had access to beforehand because almost all the deck is, you know, 3+ mana anyways. So
those don't feel crazy because it's like red has access to double damage effects. If you're running Obosh just for the one extra one, like I don't know, if you're really going to build a Karlach deck just to, you know, I don't know, it just feels kind of like more of the same. I think the bigger issue is like the cards, like Nasim was saying, the cards that break the color pie in a way, like that gives these colors access to things they just shouldn't have access to because it's just not something that they quote unquote should have access to based off the color pie. Like blue doesn't have, you know, like board wipes, for example. Green doesn't have board wipes. So those are just things that are true for those colors. And if you suddenly give those colors access to those things, it really shifts things around in a different way because you never have to worry about, I mean, yes, blue players have the one Cyclonic Rift, but you know, you never have to worry about it. If you know your friend doesn't play Cyclonic Rift, you never have to worry about your blue player friend wiping the board at any point in time. So I don't think there's any hybrid mana board wipes, so we're not too concerned yet. But
and I guess I'm curious, like, how many of these cards just become instant staples? You know, like, oh, now Privileged Position, for example, probably like staple every mono white deck wants an effect like that, right? And then it's like all these cards that we think are like, you know, cool and quirky just become, oh wow, maybe there's a reason why we should never have these cards allowed, right? Like I'm gonna activate my trap card, the Dovescape card, like giving white counter every non-creature spell probably is an enchantment we really want to see, right? It's like feels really Azorius, right? Or maybe even mono blue. But yeah, and then I don't know, I saw this crazy post about that card, and there's like this Overseer that turns creatures into 1/1s. So in Toxtril you get access to both of those colors, or you know, both those cards, so you can just like stacks out the game completely. And it's like they're never meant to be that way, right? The commanders have specific color entities that we build around, and then the support just kind of like goes around it. Yeah, that being said, I do think it's really cool. I kind of like that you can kind of do this like quirky broken stuff. Maybe it's just because I'm a power gamer, but I can understand the sentiment like, hey, maybe these cards aren't supposed to interact that way. I know it's like a silly thing to kind of say in Commander because like 90% of all the cool stuff we do shouldn't interact that way anymore.
So we're agreeing to this now, and it's easy to do it now because we can see all the hybrid cost cards that exist. But Wizards is still currently printing cards. I mean, you can go and look at the Avatar set, and they printed hybrid mana cost in those sets as well. So like it's something they're currently doing. People are suspecting Lorwyn's going to be full of them because I think OG Lorwyn had hybrid mana costs. So it's something that currently right now everyone can say, oh, I don't have a problem with it, but it may be something in the future that people regret agreeing to because it's like, oh, once Wizards gets the green light, they print whatever they want without paying attention to hybrid mana costs, and then suddenly we have, you know, extra combats in every color and tutors in colors that shouldn't be tutoring and things like that. So I think it's we have to be wary of just outright saying, oh, I think it's fine now, because they've done things like that in the past where they've said, hey, there's this old mechanic that we are never going to print ever again, and we're going to kind of change it slightly to streamline it or to make it make more sense. Like when they changed all the Naga creatures just to be snakes because it's just easier to print snake on a bunch of things than it is all these like random words that no one's ever heard of. It makes things more streamlined. That's easy to do because in the future they're not printing any more Naga cards. It's not going to come up again where they're going to be like, hey, remember that's technically a snake. Like they fixed it, and moving forward it's like one way. Hybrid mana cost isn't like that. It's a bunch of old cards and future cards that we haven't even seen yet that suddenly are going to be allowed to be in every deck.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, I can already see the Mark Rosewater Tumblr post saying people love the hybrid mana change. We're gonna keep doing it. Every card is gonna be hybrid mana. Yeah. So no, I'm nervous about that as well, especially with like, you know, Wizards kind of controlling the format. I know people have said, you know, they've always kind of controlled it, but now that they can kind of like shape the narrative and kind of warp our meta into, you know, what's the next thing, right? Every card's hybrid. Yeah, I think you can definitely get out of hand there.
I'll take the opposite side of it. I think it's just interesting because I feel like it opens up a kind of unique design sphere for cards or colors that don't typically get certain types of effects. You know, like Judge's Familiar is one that was brought up, just about, you know, white having a way to interact on the stack in one more meaningful way. You know, maybe my perspective is a little bit shifted, but I like the idea of, you know, the colors getting a little bit more, I don't want to say homogenous, but having a little bit more of ways to battle outside of their usual, you know, mono white makes dudes, mono red burns face, mono green does big stompy, you know, blue draws cards, you know, black cares about sacrifice. I like the idea of getting the option or the potential of being able to kind of blend those gaps and kind of blend those borders a little bit more. I think it makes for more interesting and unique deck building where, you know, you can find something that maybe was an older card, like a, you know, time shifted card that had a very specific effect that was not in the color, but now it can be played more because it's got this sort of reinvigorated like cross boundary between the two different colors.
Yeah, I guess on that point, let's say, you know, we get like a million more hybrid cards. Would we be okay with it being in our format if the card kind of does what both effects or colors of it would do? Like if it's like a Selesnya card and it's about making tokens or making like pumping your board a little bit like an Anthem, would that be egregious? You know, if we kind of have, because we already have like cards that kind of do both colored entities on there. I'm wondering if like more of that, like just like the Avatar spoilers, they do kind of seem like, you know, this could be like a green or red effect for some like cards like that. I guess there's always the concern of like cards being really pushed, but I think that's just kind of like the nature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the push side of it's always, I feel like, interesting just because like you have to make cards that are playable. And if you're making cards that are weak, then no one's going to play them and it's never going to matter. So like the push side of it, I don't personally, I'm okay with the cards not being like, you know, super hardcore push, but being pushed just a little bit more to maybe incentivize you if you want to optimize your deck, you know, to play this hybrid card that does something that a white or a green card could do. But if you don't really like that idea or you like another card, you can still use, you know, a similar effect.
I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of been what the colors have always done, right? It's like if you want to build a mono white deck and then you want to complain that you don't have access to extra combats, it's like, well, then that you're fundamentally flawed because you're playing a mono white deck. Like your mono white has access to other things to help you get to the point that you're trying to get to with extra combats, which is probably to go wider, right? So I if you just say, oh, like I just want all the colors to have access to the same things, it's like then there's no incentive to build any color if you just pick a commander that you like. It's the Golos argument, right? Why would you run any commander other than Golos? Because he just does everything better than your commander does. Like if you make all the colors the same, and I know that's not what you're saying, Dan, but like potentially with hybrid mana cost, you start making the colors basically all the same, and now you've got no reason to run any color. Everyone's going to run 5-color decks because they can't. And it just feels kind of part of the appeal of Commander is like your color identity, your commander restricting what you can do. it's kind of like when everybody looks to the blue player to counter a spell on the stack because the other colors just don't have the option. But now it's like, white player, you've got hybrid mana cost card. Come on.
Yeah,
you
we
just
almost
really
over
aware-
here. Yeah.
Like it kind of ruins
Yeah.
the fun. That's kind of the comical side of Magic, right? Is that sometimes you're just like, I can't answer this in my color. It is what it is. Like I can't do it. So
Yeah, I think it came up in like your Renma game, right? Where it's like, why are you looking at me to answer it? All my cards
Yeah,
are like
like-
the same permanent type.
Everything is
like,
a creature.
contribute to the board. This is probably like the first time it's ever happened in a discussion where my mind has been changed in real time.
Oh.
Where I'm thinking about, I think we keep talking about monocolor, which is totally out of my wheelhouse. So, I'll agree with whatever you say. But I'm thinking about 3-color, my domain. What if you're playing an Esper control deck and then you get access to all the random like red effects, right? For like haste, if it's like a hybrid, blue-red card or a blue-black card or a red-black card, it's like, I'm going to run Obosh in my, Jin Sakai deck, like, oh, perfect. Like, is that the world we want to live in?
that's what
I
I
just
mean.
imagine it's like your entire deck becomes color shifted, right? Or potentially, right? Where I run my Waves of Aggression for extra combats in my Esper deck, and then I run my Manamorphose and stuff like that, as rituals and things like that. I'm kind of curious. Maybe I should brew. I wonder what the most like degenerate deck you could do with like technically legally 3-color, but you have like 15 hybrid cards.
Yeah, that's what and I agree. I think monocolor seems to be the focus because right now it's like, oh, now I can have one bio shift in my mono green deck. It's like, okay, is that really game breaking? But you're right. Like your 3-color decks now have, they've probably doubled their card pool just off hybrid mana costs. Not doubled, it's probably extreme, but they've significantly increased the number of cards they have access to just off hybrid mana cost. And again, if you are in Esper and you're just like, man, this deck would be so much better if I had extra combats. It's like, well, if you can't get there in the other colors you are, then like, why give them an extra combat spell? Because it just feels, I don't know. To me, that's just like integral to Magic Commander specifically, is like trying to find ways within your colors to do what you're trying to do, right? Every color has its different ways to win. Every color has its different ways that they gain card advantage or, whatever. So you start blurring those lines, and I think you lose a lot of what makes Magic so good.
Dan looks like he's about to have a heart attack and die.
People I am so excited for this. Dan's just looking for more cards for Reki this whole time, by the way.
Listen, like I said, I already have like 9 cards. I'm gonna try in the deck. So like I'm set on that. We're so back. I can't wait to untap Gaia's Cradle with Kiora. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like freaking Arna with Waves of Aggression and Obosh. Like, double damage, extra combat. Great.
No, and it's even like there's a lot of I'm glad you brought up Kiora, Dan, because there are randomly some planeswalkers that are just like not good for the colors that they are in, right? You don't see Kiora in decks because it is Simic only, and it's not a super popular ability, but I guarantee, like you said, I guarantee you mono green decks want access to tapping a permanent, untapping a permanent, and Samut is a great example.
Card draw side.
Well, sure, yeah, just the card draw side.
All the
Samut's like randomly like that old War of the Spark planeswalker that gives creatures you control haste, and it's originally Gruul, right? That's not an effect that green has anymore. Green only has access to like the give everyone haste effects, and that's why most people don't play them anymore, because they benefit the whole table. But now you've just given green its access to its own haste card, which again is part of what makes green so what's the word I'm looking for? Like hold green back, right? Because it's like, oh, at least they can't swing with the 12/12 this turn. It's next turn that I have to worry about it. But now all of a sudden you just have haste on all the mana dorks. Like green and mono green elves with haste we're asking for trouble, I think. And mind you, I know that they have access to those cards already, so it's not super game breaking, but now it's on a planeswalker that they can protect because they've got bodies, and they're not too worried about the downticking it because the downtick does nothing for them. So it's just a 4 mana give my creatures haste.
You've given me the 10th card to put into Reki now. I totally missed that one when I was looking.
Yeah, I guess
Like,
it is a complicated.
no, so it's like I said. I think there's just so many hybrid mana cost cards that it's hard to look at them all right now and say, oh, I'm okay with that decision, right? Like each card, like I said, that's why it's like you almost have to look at each card and say this one's okay, and if you come out at the end saying exactly 50% of them are good, 50% of them are not going to matter, I don't know what call to make. So that's why I say no, because it's just too divided.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing to like conceptualize, like Nasim was saying, is like the impact of this on like threes and fours and twos, like because everything, all my notes are like, oh, this monocolor, like it's like I get the points because it is definitely going to be a very different style of commander. I think that we'll be playing, just in general, like if this were to happen, because like, you know, 4-color decks getting access, like a yeah, so like just, you know, the maybe like a Sans Black deck getting access to like an Obosh, or you know, some of these you know, reanimate things, you know, stuff like that. I think it'll I mean, that's why I'm excited. I think it changes the way people build decks, and it changes the cards people play in such a unique and kind of drastic way.
Are companions just the biggest winner out of this
Dude,
rules change?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it feels like we keep bringing that up.
So my last point, and again, it's kind of tinfoil hatty, so take it with a grain of salt. It's not anything officially confirmed or anything, but I think when Wizards took over for Commander, one of the big like cons of it, or people were worried that they were now in charge of the format, that they would make decisions based off money and not based off what's best for the format, right? And so there's a concern that they're changing the way hybrid costs work so that they can sell more cards to Commander players, because most Commander players look at hybrid mana costs and probably are like, that doesn't fit in my wheelhouse because I'm not running the exact 2 colors that card's supposed to be. Now hybrid cost cards are way more appealing to Commander players. You have a whole set, potentially not a whole set, but Lauren we assume is going to have hybrid mana costs. So there's a concern that Wizards potentially is just doing this to make more money, and I think that if that's true, and if that turns out to be why they did it, it is concerning. Because again, I don't want to see them make decisions for Commander just because this is what makes us more money at the end of the day. It's what's best for the format. And I think Nasim may have said it earlier, but like, who's this helping? Who's this really benefiting? Is it the players or is it Wizards? If it's helping Wizards more than it's helping us, then we can't do it. That's just the cut and dry of it, I think. If it is helping the players, i.e., from Dan's perspective, if it's helping people have more fun deck building, there's some cool interactions, you can kind of do stuff outside of your colors, and that's appealing to you. If you really think that that's something that you're dying to do in Commander, then sure, you can elect to have this change. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a democratic process they're going through, but you know, you can voice your support for it so Wizards can see, I guess. But I would just be concerned that, and again, Wizards isn't going to say it. They're not going to be like, hey, we did this so we can make more money, guys. Come on. It's just something that we're going to have to see what happens in the future. If it is seemingly like this was a money grab, then I say we should be worried for the future, because that is a dangerous path to go down, of let's make changes to Commander so that we can print more money.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing it as well with like the change to spacecraft being legendary commanders as well, without, you know, being a creature. That was all just to, you know, get Edge of Eternities to get some more play. And then now we have the Star Trek confirmed as well. I'm sure that we'll get some more things there. And that's like strictly a change that doesn't affect 60 card, doesn't affect like all those formats. It's just so that they can like cater to us a bit more.
Yep.
So I guess now we have like we have potentially 2 like plots on the map. That is like the direction they're going in. What, you know? Hey, more product. I mean, hey, consume. Hey, I love more cards for my Soul Tie deck. I'll get some more effects, you know, essentially play Witchmaw, you know, we're so back.
So, I mean, and I'll keep it short, but my only, I guess, I agree with a lot of what Peyton was saying. My only gripe is, you know, looking at it as they're doing this as a way to design for Commander now. where I think they've been designing for Commander forever. You know, they've been changing the way that cards interact. They've been changing the way that cards are worded, to, you know, just in very different degrees, like things saying each opponent instead of target opponent. It's something small and it's something that people don't think about, but coming from the 60 card side of things, the word each versus target is like leaps and bounds different in what it can do. So like you can't play a protection spell, you can't cast a Surge of Salvation when someone tries to pick your poison you. You know, things like that. So I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Payne, but I do think that we, you know, have to remember that they have been doing this design for Commander for a while and changing the way they're wording cards, you know, that affect other things.
For sure. And I think, and I agree. And that's why I was like kind of not really that worried about the change to the legendary vehicle thing, because they printed the text on Shorekai to allow him to be your commander despite not being a creature. They could have just printed that on every card if they hadn't gotten control of the format right. They could have just printed at the bottom of every legendary vehicle moving forward that it can be your commander, and they would never, you know. So I get that. This is like specifically eroding something that is in the commander format, like rules, is like commander color identity, the color identity specifically of hybrid mana cards. That's a fundamental change to that. They can't print that on any card. They can't change the way cards are printed to make that a change that they want to see in the future. The only way to do it is to not print hybrid mana costs anymore and print cards in the colors that they want them in. So it's I know what you're saying, and I do agree. Like, if Wizards wants to make a change to Commander, they don't really need anybody's permission. They can just print cards the way they want things to be said and how things want to be worded. But this is specifically a change that is not changed by that, and so it's just a little concerning. I like I said, I don't want to like raise the alarm just yet, because it is maybe, again, they're also just talking about it. They haven't confirmed it. Maybe they do come to the same conclusion that it's just not something they want to do. But like I said, it's just a dangerous path to start down, like changing the fundamental rules of Commander. If in 6 months they say we're going to allow 4 copies of every card in Commander, it's like, I think then hopefully people would be like, okay, this is like this is something that separates Commander from other things. Like, let's keep Commander what it is.
Do you think if hybrid color identity goes through, do you think that'll be like the breaking point for Commander as a format? Or is that just like the first step in like potential decay? Because I know there's like a lot of hubbub about that in the community as well.
I mean, personally, I don't think so. I think just I don't think it's going to be, you know, it's going to be something that like breaks Commander or, you know, changed it drastically. I guess, you know, it's maybe to Peyton's point, you know, like he's saying, looking at it now, you know, we've got, you know, hindsight's 2020. We can look back and we can say, oh, well, these cards aren't that good. But, you know, new cards that are coming, you know, maybe they do find ways that break things and kind of homogenize all of the colors into basically doing very similar effects, whether you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like the color, you know, the color identity of your commander isn't going to matter. But I think if they do it tactfully and they do it in a way where it's not like everything is just a color pie break for hybrid mana, I think it opens it up to a lot more interesting, you know, deck building and interactions and ways to play the game.
I guess my issue is like, if let's just say like you said, the concern is like the future. So if they commit, if they're like, look, we won't print any broken hybrid mana cost cards, like we'll stay committed to making sure that they fit within the color pie. So if it's hybrid green, red, the card will do Gruul things and Gruul things only. Why not just make it a Gruul card? Why do we have to do the hybrid mana cost thing? Just so you can run it in a mono green deck, just so you can run it in a mono red deck. If that's your focus, trying to pump up monocolor decks, I might be more on board. But that's not what it's doing, right? It's going to empower every color, because again, like now you're running cards intended for, you know, Rakdos in Esper. Now you're running cards intended for Gruul in Esper, and it's like Esper is not supposed to have red and it's not supposed to have green. So let's not give them the ability to run effects in those colors, in my opinion. So that's just like, if Wizards is like, oh, we just really want to make monocolored cooler, or we want to try to do like hybrid mana costs are just not as restrictive. It's like, then just print the cards how you want them to be printed. If you want monocolor stronger, print stronger monocolored cards. I don't know.
Where are we going to fit that in our 7 sets a year? Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there's definitely enough product to come out where you can kind of just support the colors you want to, especially when each set is going to have precons as well. That comes straight to our format, that they could really change it that way.
Because I guess to Dan's point, like, why, like, if you really are like, you know what, white needs an extra combat spell, guess what? Print a white extra combat spell. I don't fucking care, but don't like don't force it on me through hybrid mana cost.
Are we just the frogs being slowly boiled? First, it's the hybrid mana extra combat spell, and then it's the just the like, don't you remember it did it in this card 15 years ago? It's fine.
Maybe.
Just accept it. But okay, well, it seems like we kind of covered everything we wanted to in this discussion.
So Peyton, has your mind changed about hybrid mana?
Like I said, I will give it the benefit of the doubt. If I think Wizards really truly thinks it's a good decision, obviously, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, but it's not the end of Commander for me. I will still play regardless of this change, but as of now, no, my mind is pretty much set on, I think it's just a bad idea.
I'm on the opposite side, as you know. I'm still excited. I'm excited if it happens to brew and do kind of more interesting, wacky things. With maybe different styles of effects, or maybe revitalizes a commander that I've wanted to build. What about you, Nasim? I know you said live, real time. We may have caught you changing, caught you slipping.
So, there's inside of you, there's two wolves, right? One wants to have a balanced game. One wants to be wacky. I kind of want to make an Esper deck that kind of just throws everything out of the wall now. I kind of want to see how broken that'll be. I think I have like a lot of homework to do. And then maybe we'll have another Rule 0 episode in the future coming up. If it gets on the wheel, Yeah, I think a lot of effects are kind of quirky, kind of wacky. I'm aligned with you. I think it's kind of cool. But at the same time, it's like, what's the point? Do we really need this? There's so many ways to be weird, because we have like 30,000 cards in our card pool. And, I'm a monocolor hitter. So, screw the monocolor players. Just play 3-color, man. Just play Sultan. You'll be good. Everything you want in that color right there. That is my legal opinion.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up here. Thanks for checking out our episode of the Fourcast. Look for the next one coming out soon.
Blammo.